Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 675 on Tuesday, the 17th of March, 2026. Hello, I'm not Alan, I'm Andrew, and this week you'll hear me idly wondering what the saying is about butterfly flapping its wings on one side of the world. In new car news, you will have to reach for your sunglasses just to sit inside one new vehicle. And in points of interest, you will learn how tiny can be mighty. And we jump straight into new news. This is, well, it could possibly have been a bit of follow-up because I did mention it last week. But the SMMT had their get-together last week about SMMT electrified, I think it was, or electric. And during it, they asked or urgently called for a review of the zero-emission vehicle mandate. They were very explicit in saying that the economic and political matters have changed in the past 5 years since the last version of the ZEV mandate came out, that there's no way that it's possible to achieve with the current conditions that are out there. The government was there in terms of they had a representative. They immediately rejected that demand and stated that they would carry on with their plan, which is to start a review in 2027. Oh, dear. On the one hand, you've got people and companies who are invested in us moving to an electrified future quicker. They say don't slow it down. On the other hand, you've got the industry saying, we can't sell more. We're already giving millions of pounds away in discounts and the like just to get people through the door. And then you've got the government sat in the middle, sat on its hands, effectively. I don't see any changes really happening anytime soon. It might do later on in the year, but as it stands now, they're worrying about other things rather than this. As we've said last week, the original figures were frankly plucked from thin air. They didn't reflect reality. They really do not reflect reality now. There are many factors which have hampered them. One of the largest of which at the moment is the geopolitical factors. Car companies are being hit, as we'll find out in this show. Car companies are being hit heavily in terms of the amount of money that they're making or not making, what their losses are in many cases, and therefore they cannot sustain the levels of discounting and what they're doing to get people, like I said, through the door. At some point, this comes to a head. Some companies, like Stellantis, have said unless there is a change, then they will be reducing their UK operations, is how they've put it. But there is an article towards at the end of the first part that is a brief glimmer of good hope in this week's really very grim news that would make the situation worse if they were to leave. Right, I am going to move us on, and Renault has announced their new strategy, which will take them up to 2030, and it is called the Future Ready, where they have mashed together future and ready in one word. Well, I mean, it's better than the previous one, which was the Renaulution plan. What they're going to be doing is they're going to release 36 new models by 2030. This will be split across Europe and international markets. That will also be split between hybrid, internal combustion engine, and electric, depending on the market. There is a lot of talk here of them building on what they're already doing well when it comes to the three brands they have. Like Dacia will continue to look at four-wheel drive and hybrid type of tech. Alpine will go deeper into trying to keep customer loyalty, and also there's some really lovely wording here which should make everybody worried, but they're saying the quiet bits out loud, but they're aiming for at every stage of the lifetime of the car sold to become a source of revenue optimization. Yes. And there's a lot of talk about how technology and software is going to help them. They are doubling down with Google to use the Android automotive platform. With that, which makes me worried, and depending on how much you look into software and technology, that may be a no-no for you, and that may just cross them off your potential list. But they're also talking about using or helping evolve their software-defined vehicle platform into an artificial intelligence-defined vehicle, which Renault claims paves the way for, and I'm quoting from an Autocar article here, Renault claims paves the way for truly intelligent cars and can control infotainment, ADAS, and the chassis. Well, no. Frankly, that couldn't be a bigger no if you tried it. Do remember, everyone who's listening, AI cannot meet the criteria of safety critical software. I cannot understand how the car industry is going down this route. I cannot understand how the safety experts and legislators are allowing it to happen. It just beggars belief. They need to stop it. Just drives me insane. Anyway, I don't want to harp on too much about that because then this show could just be me doing that for half an hour or so. And that's not fair on you. I'm going to move on to some positive news for VW Group, and that is that Seat and CUPRA have posted record sales. However, that only meant they made €1 million in profit. That is because they got hammered by the tariffs involving bringing Chinese-built EVs into Europe, and also they have put a huge amount of capex into future projects such as a new EV battery plant, as well as developing new models that are yet to come and updating existing models. That's got to be quite gutting if you're in there. But the great thing is to see how they have actually increased their sales, increased the registrations, and that's a really good positive thing to take from it. Because moving on to the next article, that's the only good bit of news that the Volkswagen Group has. They had an awful 2025. They had an operating margin of just 2.8%, which is, according to this Autocar article linked, is the equivalent of 8.9 billion euros of total revenues. That is down 53% on 2024's 19.1 billion euros. Again, they're making it clear that trade tariffs, particularly with the US, as well as exchange rate fluctuations and cost associated with Porsche's write-down. On top of that, China will have been even worse for them than the previous year. Again, somebody deciding and having a bit of a tantrum in one country is having such a huge knock-on effect to everybody everywhere. And for that, I feel very sorry for the car industry. I am happy to point out their own self-inflicted wounds, but that is not one of them. You have to add on top of everything as well for Volkswagen Group the costs associated with Dieselgate. No one makes that just disappear easily. So they're already were starting from behind the marker, and I can't see how that isn't affecting them now. And maybe the fact that there is such geopolitical turmoil that they can hide all those facts in and blame it on that. But in terms of what they're going to do is they are looking to have at least €6 billion savings per year by 2030. They reckon they've managed to save $1 billion already. This is including now 50,000 jobs going. The problem I've got here is because we've talked about this previously. We talked about it last year, where the Volkswagen Group mentioned 30 to 40,000 job losses. I don't know if this is an additional 50,000 jobs or whether this is just upping what it was before. Equally, the amount of money they're looking to save, I don't know if this is upping that amount or if that is additional to what they already said they were saving. We are seeing so many announcements from the VW Group going, it's worse than we thought, we need to save. It doesn't sound like they're saying save more, but it could equally be that. It's very unclear as to how much money they are actually needing to save and how bad a situation they're in. But I think it's pretty bad for the company. The Porsche thing is a huge dent, and we will find out Porsche's own financial results soon, I would imagine by next week. And of course, we'll bring that to you in the show. Right, more bad news. I know, it's just so grim at the minute. But Honda has quite shockingly decided to scrap the 0 Series saloon and SUV. They were due to be launching them in a few months, but you remember we discussed these when they revealed them. I was less than complimentary on the looks. I was less than complimentary on the price that they thought they were going to be charging. And I was very much less than complimentary about the range and performance they talked about. Just none of it was good enough, in my opinion. However, irrespective of my thoughts, this will mean that they are going to have losses because of writing this down just in this financial year of 1.6 to 2.7 billion pounds. They expect more pain in 2026 to 2027 as well. They make it clear that this is down to how the US has changed its policy on EVs and the fact that there just isn't the market there for it, which is where they were hoping to sell most of these. They also are making it very clear that how they produce or have produced vehicles historically, i.e. not about software, not about big shiny screens that allegedly us consumers want, allegedly. Yeah, okay. They say that they are behind the curve on that sort of thing. And I thought that the new EVs were going to help fix that for them in some cases because of the way that they were going about it, but clearly not. So that's a real tough one for Honda. We have yet to hear what their plans are going to be moving forward in terms of Europe and that sort of thing. Right, I couldn't finish this part of the show out with it all being quite so negative. I had to have some positivity in here. And whilst there is the threat hanging over from the first story that unless the ZEV mandate is reviewed, Stellantis will move out, in the meantime, they are investing 50 million in Ellesmere Port to add a new, fresh electric van assembly line, and that will take the Vauxhall / Opel Vivaro-sized electric van that they've got. That's got to be tied into them getting rid of Luton, but obviously the way that there is a ZEV mandate for vans as well, even though that's, whilst the car one is bad, the van one is dreadfully not being kept apace with at all, because the product does not match what many of the first brand new van owners want / need or can live with. The van mandate, whilst it makes so much sense on paper, was so far out from reality when they first wrote it. It was just laughable. Anyway, this is great news for Ellesmere Port. That means that there'll be more jobs as well. It's, for the short term, it is guaranteeing how bright the future is there and that they are doing a good job with the other stuff that they are building there at the moment. The Combo, the Berlingo Partner and the Doblo, all in electric versions. So that's great. After that whistle-stop tour of grim news with the occasional bright spot, that means we are at Guilt Minute, and that's the quick break in the show where we ask for a tad of financial support to keep the lights on and the hosting running. If you feel that the Motion Podcast is worth a small consideration every month, then you can become a patron. The different levels of patron include different levels of commitment from us to you, including being able to watch the show recorded live, although not this week. We also have a small range of merchandise in our spring store, from stickers to mugs and t-shirts. If you don't have any spare cash, and we completely understand, then you can help us by following for free from a podcast player to receive every show as they're released, and by liking and rating the show in whatever your podcast supplier lets you. If you have done all of that, and some of you do, so thank you very much, then the last thing you can do is recommend us to your friends or colleagues. Thank you, everyone that does. It is very much appreciated. I am taking us now into new car news. I'm going to start with Jaecoo. They are bringing the 8, which is a 3-row SUV that will be coming in plug-in hybrid form to the UK from May, and prices will start at £45,500 for the luxury trim, and the only other trim is executive, which has prices at £47,500. It's going to be using the super hybrid system. that all the other Chery Group models, such as the Armada 9 and Tiggo 9 use. That means that it is a 1.5 litre turbocharged petrol engine, 3-speed auto gearbox, and that will create then, as it's all mounted together, 422 brake horsepower with 427 pound-foot of the torques, and it gives a 0 to 62 time of, oh my word, 5.8 seconds, which, as this Autocar article that's linked in the show notes points out, is very close to being a Golf GTI. In something this size, it's see previous shows where we have said that how silly that is. There is going to have a combined range of more than 700 miles, apparently, and the electric-only range of 83 miles, which is awesome. There is DC fast charging capability of up to 50 kilowatts, which allows from 30 to 80% charge in around 20 minutes. There isn't, at the moment, an EV-only version of the 8 in the pipeworks, and also they won't be bringing the 2-litre petrol entry level either. So it's just a PHEV is what we're getting here. 3 rows of seats, but there's different layouts to that. Sometimes you can have it as the captain's chairs where there's 6 seats. There's the 2 front passengers, 2 middle and 2 at the back. And then there's others where it's more benches across there. It's going to have a dual 12.3-inch displays, a Sony 14-speaker sound system, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and heated, ventilated and massaging front seats, all as standard. Yes, £45,000 for a Jaecoo. Be interesting to see if they pull that off. I mean, they're shifting the 7 and the 5s, and who's to say not? Who is to say not? Moving on, though, and let's go back a little bit in time. Thank you, Caterham, for this. The Caterham 7 HWM edition. HWM, apparently, is a dealer that Caterham partners with anyway. However, if you go back further in time, HWM used to be a racing team all of its own, and it had its own vehicle. Now, that's what this is all to do with. This pays tribute to the fact that Sir Stirling Moss won his first F1 race in an HWM car. And it's going to have the HWM green, which looks lovely. It's a light pale green. And it's also got the distinctive HWM nose cone grille, and which, again, just fits it so well. And they've also gone for the mudguards that fit over each of the wheels individually rather than the long swooping ones that come down the side. Superb stuff. Starts at £57,900. It's going to have a 2-litre 210 brake horsepower Duratec 4-cylinder engine, 5-speed manual gearbox, 0 to 62 in a brisk 3.8 seconds, and a top speed of 136 mile per hour. Good luck if you were ever trying to do that. Not on the road, obviously. Obviously not. The interior looks fabulous as well. The Super Sprint dashboard with hand-turned aluminium, Smith's chrome dials, retro Moto Lita polished wood wheel. It looks wonderful. Ah, please. No, but the seats are a bit more modern. Don't worry, they're not. They're not tied to the 1950s for that. Wonderful thing. Do click the Evo link to have a look at the pictures. That just looks great. Oh, really need to drive a Caterham. Really do. If I could fit in one. That's probably my first challenge. Right, moving on from that, and we are going to something that is very much now, and that is the Mercedes VLE. That is a van which they claim is equivalent to the E-Class, but in van form, and has the same drag coefficients as the EQE SUV. This is a lot. There's a lot to this. The outside, fairly decent looking van, although the front grille is the ridiculous Mercedes front grille. Also, please stop with the 3-pointed stars on absolutely everything for every light and all the rest of it. Round the back, I think Hyundai want to have a word about the Ioniq 9 rear that you've nicked there, but at least it's visually interesting. The real stuff is on the inside. My word. There is an LED light strip everywhere in this car. You will need well, first of all, I presume you can switch this off, because if not, you're going to get very bored of it. It makes a Twitch streamer look like they're not trying hard enough with their setups, honestly. It's, should we say, a bit much for me. And that's me being kind because I don't want to edit my swearing too much. And they are talking about how it's luxurious and it's all the rest of this. And most of that is to do with tech. We're still stuck in that, technology means luxury. There's a huge telly in this as an option of one of them. It's more like an S-Class than it is, a V-Class van, obviously. You are going to pay a pretty penny for this, looking at some of the ways they've laid it out. But when it comes to the electric drive side of it, then the first variant, according to this Autocar article, is going to be the VLE 300, which will have 268 brake horsepower, a range of more than 435 miles. That's great. But they need a 115 kilowatt hour nickel manganese cobalt battery to do that. That's massive. That is enormous. It's going to run off 800 volts, so they haven't made the mistake that some other manufacturers have made by coming out in 400 and then saying a week later, actually, we're going to be 800. It claims that if you can find the right type of charger and it is powered off the grid suitably and the environmental conditions are also advantageous, you can get 199 miles in just 15 minutes, which, if that happens, that's excellent. Also, we'll do bidirectional charging. There will be a more powerful four-wheel drive VLE 400, which is going to have over 400 brake horsepower and 6.5 seconds to 62. Why does a van need to get to 62 in 6.5 seconds? That's so silly. Give me another 50 miles range and take it to 10 seconds. Anyway, there's also mentions that there's going to be an entry-level model which will have just a mere 80 kilowatt-hour lithium iron phosphate batteries, and also there will be combustion engine variants connected with the same sort of platform at a later date. Okay, so the technical side of it sounds impressive. I cannot see this costing less than £100,000. There's no way. And then there is the tick box exercise of just how you want to do to the interior, frankly. Stop with the mood lighting, for goodness sake. Anyway, let's go on to points of interest. And this week, we're going to have a long read, or big read, from Top Gear. And this is a tale of both one that I hope is, again, inspiration for planning a road trip or planning an expedition or just looking forward to doing something involving a car later in the year. But it's also a tale of warning that perhaps you really do want to make sure you plan and understand, particularly if you're going to, say, as Ollie Marriage and Mark Riccioni did, go to Georgia in a Toyota Land Cruiser. There's some ups and downs in this story. There's some moments, but do click the link. It's a fabulous read. It sounded an amazing time, despite some of the more dramatic moments, and the pictures are absolutely gorgeous. It's one of those. It's again why we've done it recently. Everything out there, he says, waving his arm just generally at the universe, feels pretty grim and awful and uncontrollable. So doing something like this, like going on an expedition, even in this country, or especially in this country, because it's going to be difficult to go anywhere else at them soon, but doing something like this, even over a weekend, just getting out of your comfort zone, taking a car, going and doing something just fun and different and explore. Why not? We should be exploring more. So that's part of the reason that these types of articles keep cropping up. But it's a great read. Yeah, Ollie has a wonderful turn of phrase in there. For list of the week, we are sticking with Top Gear. As it's only me, I'm not picking a big list because that seems a waste, as then Alan can't talk about something he was going to pick. So what I have picked is titled 7 Brilliant and Perfectly Formed Tiny Concept Cars. Tom Ford has helped compile this. And frankly, They're all wonderful. However, I would ask you to scroll down to number 4 and have a look at the Toyota Moguls. And according to these text in here that Tom Ford wrote, said, accessing those parts of the forest that other SUVs cannot reach, the Toyota Moguls ploughed a lonely but ingenious niche. Proper ground clearance was achieved by doing away with a prop shaft in favour of valves and pumps, with independently driven wheels enjoying half a metre of suspension travel. The seats are offset, allowing for a narrow footprint. It just looks ace. It looks absolutely fabulous. Wonderful. If that wasn't there, then I would have definitely picked 7. And if you are a long-time listener to the show, you will have heard me bemoan and complain and rage against the universe that this never actually was made into a thing, because it's utterly fabulous is number 7. You do need to click the link in the show notes to check out what on earth I'm talking about. That brings us to the and finally. And for the and finally, we return to classic and sports cars with some motoring art. This time from Jesus Perencio, who is a graphic designer, and he is also a graphic designer and illustrator. He has been involved in tons of automotive works, but probably his most famous collection or project is the Cars and Films one. And this is what the Classic and Sports Cars article is all about. I'm sure you will have seen at least one of these when you scroll through, but now you'll know who it's from. And also at the bottom of this is a few article links to see more of his work. One to his Etsy shop, that's on a pause at the moment, but just bear it in mind if you're looking for stuff. But then it's got the Cars and Films and his own website where you can see more of his work, which is utterly lovely. The way these are compiled and the way the use of color and the clean lines and the choice of the fonts and how it's all been done is just superb. These are absolutely lovely. And you'll probably now want to go off and buy some and have them stuck on your walls, but we can't get them at the moment. They're just brilliant. Love this. Love this sort of stuff. Always love the automotive art. And that is the show this week. Sorry that Alan couldn't make it this week, but it's just the way that it is unfortunately panned out. But what that does mean is that between now and next time when hopefully he is back, you can give us any feedback and share your thoughts with the show at motoringpodcast.com on Blue Sky. Or we're also on Instagram and Facebook, and you have the contact page at www.motoringpodcast.com, hub of all our activities. Remember, you can support us financially via Patreon, and please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. What's the best way to get in touch with Alan? Will be Blue Sky, where he is at AJP Bradley. I have dipped my toe back into Blue Sky, so I can be found there under cracked windscreen. If not, more likely, I'm on LinkedIn under my name. With all that, we'll be back soon. But until then, he's not been Alan Bradley. I've been Andrew Clues, and safe motoring.